Mr. Dyer, you have 2 minutes.
The children exclaimed, "What about love?" I'm saying, what about equity? If you allow Thomasville to close, throw your strategic, plant facilities plan in the garbage. Because this precedent that you're setting with Thomasville, when you allow a purpose-built, a contractor to make a decision on a tax-paid building, then you have no credibility. That is the greatest inequity of all, and you're supposed to have a department that's supposed to look at that. There's stability. Stability for children is very important. If a child leaves an elementary school and go to middle school, they feel some kind of way about the old school. So imagine children who are attending a school and they haven't completed their cycle, and now you're shutting the door on them, especially after their building has been condemned. And the children have been living those conditions for a long period of time. So if you have any type of heart, you give those children some time to heal. And what about the solution of working with that low student teacher population? If Purpose Built is the group that's supposed to run it, why are they throwing in the towel if they have an effective system to bring those young people up to par? But I guess they don't. You work with the low student teacher ratio, then that's a recruitment tool when they plan to rebuild a place where you get more students to come in. That impacts Carver, that impacts Slater, that impacts all those schools. But you see, development is the name of the game. They use black boys and girls as scapegoats for failure to usher in development. Time and time again. Now, I know you're new here, but it's amazing how they bring superintendents here to ruin their careers. I'm against any type of school closure, especially coming out of a pandemic. The numbers that your group, that Sizemore group brought in here, totally inaccurate. All of the white schools are full capacity. All of the black schools, low capacity. But yet, that's where the development is happening. If you're looking at statistics and ARC, they're talking about growth. So I would say reevaluate, get involved, because your blood is on your hands if Thomasville closed, and you're going to hear from the community. Thank you.
Madam Chair, this concludes public comment.
Hello, and welcome to Exposed. I'm your host, Nate Dyer, and it's great to have you. We're living in some trying times. I'd like to give my sincere condolences to the tragic loss of life in Uvalde, Texas. That's very sad. Just no words for it. And, it's just madness, serious madness. And that's a community, that's a school system that's really going to have to dig deep for repair and healing. And that's something that's going to be constant, probably more than likely never ending. The stain that situation has put on the hearts and the minds of the children. So my prayers definitely go out, and their parents as well, the educators, everyone involved, first responders, just the world. Sincere condolences go out to you. As we come back home, we have our own crisis as it relates to education, the safety, security, the stability of our children. And we're going to talk about the elements, and which are security, stability, and I'll say one of the main components is support, which will bring about success in any school system. For one thing, security brings about the notion of, hey, making sure that the environment is conducive to learning, making sure that the children can be the best that they can be. And it comes about safety. That entails the staff being competent, being strong in their knowledge base, their offering as it relates to the learning, the ability to teach. And of course, making sure that we don't have any type of problems that occurred with school shootings. That is just one of the most, I would say that's just a nightmare for any community to go through, or a school system. And, the unfortunate thing about that situation, uh, there's a conflict with the police department. The school that was, I guess, an internal group with the school. And the role, they had just been trained, and they should have had the ability or the wherewithal to go in and address the situation head on. But instead, they waited and lost, I'll say, valuable time. As it relates to valuable time, we're dealing with a situation of Thomasville Elementary being closed and merged with Slater Elementary. Now, that's problematic because here in Atlanta, there's a strong history of this type of situation occurring again and again, from administration to administration, school board, but the results are poor. The results are just horrendous. There's no improvement. They don't move the dial at all. All it is a merger and closure for development. Prime example, I can go back to, I talked with a friend about the Bowen Homes situation, which they're supposed to be bringing residents back or uh, for redevelopment. A.D. Williams was an elementary school within the Bowen Homes community. When it closed, well, when the community was demolished, of course, the school was closed. But then they had no place for the students to go within the vicinity. The only result that they had, or the only option that they had, was out. And most of them had to go to Clayton County. At the time, the schools in Clayton County were not accredited. So here's a prime example of taking students in a situation which I have to check to see if AD was performing by state standards well or not. But regardless, they were put into a horrible situation where, the school was not accredited. So the education pretty much meant nothing as it relates to the diploma. So you look at the situation with the Forest Code and Thomasville Heights Elementary. When you close that school, or when they close the apartments or condemn on whatever's going on with it, and then they give the parents the vouchers, they're claiming that only 60 children are going to be left. They want to put the children in Slater. Currently, and we went over some of the numbers, those schools aren't faring very well as relates to state standards or rankings. But the conversation that Atlanta Public Schools is having stops at, we're going to close the school and merge them. But they're not talking about resources. They're not talking about a transition plan. They're not even talking about how the two cultures coming together, because schools have cultures. Yeah, even in the same district, north side, west side, and east west, the different cultures. So when you merge and children together, you have to be very purposeful in what you're doing, because otherwise it can be a volatile situation. Will the students who exist in the school in Slater feel accommodating to the new students, or will there be a brick wall? Will the students from Thomasville Elementary feel comfortable or at home in a new environment without any type of process saying, you are welcome, we love you, we care for you, we are all one big family? That never happens. And well, I'm not gonna say never. I just know what happens on the south side. I do remember that they had a big hoorah when they opened Howard High for Emmons, and they made sure that they changed the logos, and they were wearing the shirts, trying to make sure that everybody was on the same page, and there was a smooth transition. But when they did Bethune and Herndon, they closed Herndon Elementary and, of course, allowed a KIPP to go into the school. But yeah, just a little bit of backdrop. When they wanted to redistrict and close Bethune Elementary and Herndon, they said it was because of the low student population. Okay. They closed Herndon and put Herndon students in Bethune Elementary. But then to KIPP and put them into Herndon, which KIPP had less of a student population than Herndon had. But this is what APS does. So the children in Herndon had to walk by, ride by, and see their school occupied by a new student population to get to a Bethune Elementary, which at the time was not fair. And you know what? I think Bethune was ranked lower than what Herndon was. So I try to say, make it make sense. But we have to understand, just like the situation in Uvalde, Texas, just because these people are in authority doesn't mean that they're competent, that they have the ability to lead. You know, most of these people are pretty much co-opted by big business. And that's just a sad fact of it. So what does it leave us as a community and our responsibility? I'm going to point out again, for security, stability, and support. You know, those are the three factors that we must keep in mind. And whether you have a child or not, you see how this impacts the entire community? You know, unfortunately, the Uvalde, Texas situation really shows us how we're all connected. I don't live in Texas, but yet that atrocity impacts my life, makes me feel a certain way, makes me feel like, wow, we've got to do more for our children, or it just pulls on our heartstrings. So in our own community, we must take more of a responsibility for accountability within our schools. You know, making sure that our schools are safe, making sure that they have stability, making sure that they are well supported, you know, for success. And the only way that we can make sure that it's supported for success is if we get involved. PTA meetings, board meetings, there may be some special events that the board members may have. We have to go to those meetings and pose questions. You may be a novice. You may have never gone to any type of board meeting or anything, but you're a community, you're a stakeholder. Maybe you're a parent, grandparent, guardian. All of those things qualify you to be a strong contributor in your local school or schools. Our children need you. Now, you know, let me just put a disclaimer there. We're not talking about the buffoons and fools, the crazy people like the guy who walked in and just acted a nut. We're not talking about those, you know. And if you are that type of person, and I'm going to speak to you directly, don't do that. You know, get some help, get some treatment. There are plenty of options out there besides taking a gun, going in, killing children or anybody. People enjoy life, you know, the majority. And for those who don't, you know, hey, if you can't dig deep and find something within that makes you happy, well, seek some help, get some counseling. You know, things can change for you in the next 5, 10, 15 minutes if you give it a chance. You know, what was this guy thinking? To stand in the classroom and to shoot. Now, some people may say, well, Nate, you may be harsh on some of these people who close schools, but in my mind, I guess you can say I'm an extremist in the sense that you're gunning down a child's life, uh, in a sense, when you derail their education, their future, when you don't think it out rationally, and you feel like we're just going to close school because, hey, this apartment building is being demolished. Let's just close it. But then you don't think about the fallout for those children. We must come to see the undereducating of children as a net. Yes, yeah. Children are not being, I guess the word could be fully, properly, or educated to the degree where they're going to be successful. In today's times, children can't read, they can't write. Reading comprehension is an issue. So if you have those problems, you're not going to be able to get into the math or the reading problems. Critical thinking can be problematic. I mean, this young man, and I haven't delved into the background or his background, but it appears to be a lack of exposure when your only option is to pick up a gun and kill people. That's your option. That's your life. No additional choices in your world. And this is the very reason why education is so important and why we must rally around our children. We must rally. I mean, he had a home. To acquire an arsenal like that, and nobody at the household is aware, and I'm just going from each situation. They had to know that there were problems. But, one thing for sure in our community, with the profiling, with the, what can I say, excessive, we really catch a big brunt of it. So if they find that a lot of, well, I'm just going to scrap that whole thought. Just stay focused. I was just talking about how they really zone in on Black boys and girls on certain things, or punish them harshly, get them sent away, but slap other people on the wrist, and then we have these type of atrocities. When all of the signs are there, we have to do a better job all the way around as relates to what's going on with our children, and break it out beyond race. When they say that children are, they call it at risk, all children are at risk. It doesn't matter what your economics are, financial situation. All children are at risk. They're vulnerable. They're young. They're going to make some decisions that are right, that will benefit them in life. And then they're going to make some that can hopefully not be detrimental, but things that they can learn from. But as a community, if we're there walking with them hand in hand, I believe we can have ultimate success. Okay. As it relates to the Thomasville Elementary situation, and I'm very hot on it because that's a community that they're going to put through transition. And unfortunately, it's not going to benefit the children in the area. They're going to be victims once again to see a school that they attended shut down and probably replaced with students who will be going to that school. And I'm sure the question will come, Mom, why can I go to my old school? And children, they're not really at that age concerned about the rankings or the space, the number. They just know that, hey, a part of their life has been enveloped around that school, to get up in the morning, to walk with their grandparents, walk with their mom, dad, get dropped off by the bus. That is part of their regimen. So now to cut that off and have them go past that school, see other kids getting dropped off, do they feel valued or undervalued? Do they feel like a game has been run on them, but, or the school wasn't good enough for me, but it's good enough for somebody else? Or, I live right down the street from the school, but I can't go to that school, but somebody else can. But Dr. Herring, yeah, I'm just gonna have to say, she has no heart, no feelings for those type of questions. You know, she comes in like she's aloof, confused, doesn't know what's going on, but she knows that, hey, we need to close the school because Master done told her to close the school. Yeah. She comes in with no plan, no agenda, just following what the former superintendent has laid out, which is a turnaround strategy, which hasn't turned anything around, maybe upside down, worse than what it was. But, seeing a significant improvement for the schools. And you can't blame it on COVID. Can't really blame it on COVID because she is not aggressive enough. She doesn't have a sense of urgency to move the dial. And I had to throw the board in there. Why run if you don't have a clue? If you don't know what's going on? If you live in a bubble and you think making a decision because someone donated to your campaign, cousin's property, purpose built, you think that is going to benefit the children? But, benefiting the children really doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all. On one end, I'm fighting on the Thomasville side to keep a school open, but you had a community around Emmett, the Morning side, pretty much fighting not to expand the school in the same district. Their schools are ranked high, but they understand the problems with instability or walkability to their school. And the board pretty much left that alone. Superintendent left that alone. But over here, walkability, access, all those things don't matter in the lives of a predominantly Black school, elementary school. Yeah. So just want to have a quick show tonight. We will have a show next week where we will follow up from the board meeting as to the result, the conversation around Thomasville Elementary, and next steps. There may be a vote as far as the official closure, but we'll find out. I will say what's problematic in this whole situation is normally there are supposed to be 2 meetings at the school that's proposed for closure on the campus. By record, I would say Atlanta Public Schools has not had one. Now, if they want to count the one where they were just introducing it, I say that wouldn't count. They can slide it in there, but I would say it doesn't count. But even if it does count, they're supposed to have 2, and they're supposed to go out into the community. But to have it downtown, away from a walking community, a community that has problems of a forest code, which by all accounts can be considered slum. They don't have all the features, all the necessities, the amenities needed for livability. But you're going to have a meeting downtown that's not accessible to the parents in the community or the children. That's sad. But We will be there next Monday. I believe Adrian had a calendar of events coming up from the school board. Okay, yeah. Thanks. June 3rd, which is Friday, there's a District 1 community meeting. I think the time looks like 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. There was a June 6th, Monday, the board meeting, school closure public hearing. So I believe there may be two meetings. Well, one meeting, but maybe two opportunities to speak. One during the board and one for the school closure. Closure. Of course, that starts. That's 2:30 p.m. and can't really see that tight, but from my knowledge, the school board meetings for public comment starts at sign up starts from 5 to 5:50. 6 o'clock the meeting is supposed to begin, and then we have it. But 2:30 they have a meeting as well during the day, afternoon. June 16th, Thursday, committee meeting day. I believe that's dealing with the board. And June the 23rd, Thursday, the board retreat facilities master planning. So that will probably take on the decision that they're making on June the 6th. Yeah. One would say, well, they've made up their minds. The decision has been made. Well, that can be said about many things. But again, what role will you play in the lives of our young people? Yeah. We can all say, well, it doesn't matter whether I show up or not. Everything matters around education with your presence, with your voice. You don't have to be the most knowledgeable, but if something's not sounding right and you know history, use history as a backdrop, but you can add it together and understand it may not be in the best interest of the children. Okay. So I hope to see you next Monday for the board meeting. 5 o'clock, sign up to 5:50. Let your voice be heard. If you don't agree with it, hey, maybe it's because you are the victim of it. Maybe it happened to you. Maybe your children went through it or grandchildren. Maybe you remember when a school was in a community and there was removed and the impact of that. You know, there are some people today who are still feeling the effects of the Bowen Homes situation. Hey, Capitol Homes, Herndon Homes, and today, oh, East Lake Meadows, and today is Forest Cove. Tomorrow, it may be your neighborhood, your school. So let's rally together and let's make our voices heard for the best interest of our children. Security, stability, and stability, which equals success for our children. So again, this has been Exposed. Your host, Nate Dyer. Hopefully you got something out of the programming. But if you didn't get any, if anything, I want you to get out of this. Let's make sure our schools are safe and supported, and make sure that you show up and be an advocate for the children in your neighborhood, whether you have children or not, and be in their best interests. Okay. And to those people who have a mental screw loose and you feel like your life just not going right, get some help, get some support. Yeah. You love to. You just have to maybe change up some things, but leave harming people. Let's not harm anybody. Let's bring love and peace if we can. Okay. Now we're standing for the children. Let's bring some love too, but some voices and some advocacy with passion. Thank you. I'd like to give a shout out to Miss Adrian Coleman for putting on such a great show, as always, with Square Mile Media. She's doing great work and great things. So kisses to you and support. All right. Hope to see you next week. Thank you.
Mr. Dyer, you have 2 minutes.
The children exclaimed, what about love? I'm saying, what about equity? If you allow Thomasville to close, throw your strategic, plant facilities plan in the garbage. Because this precedent that you're setting with Thomasville, when you allow a purpose-built contractor to make a decision on a tax-paid building, then you have no credibility. That is the greatest inequity of all, and you're supposed to have a department that's supposed to look at that. You know, there's stability. Stability for children is very important. If a child leaves an elementary school and go to middle school, they feel some kind of way about the old school. So imagine children who are attending a school and they haven't completed their cycle, and now you're shutting the door on them, especially after their building has been condemned. And the children have been living those conditions for a long period of time. So if you have any type of heart, you give those children some time to heal. And what about the solution of working with that low student teacher population? Their purpose built is the group that's supposed to run it. Why are they throwing in the towel if they have an effective system to bring those young people up to par? But I guess they don't. You work with the low student teacher ratio, then that's a recruitment tool when they plan to rebuild a place where you get more students to come in. That impacts Carver, that impacts Slater, that impacts all those schools. But you see, development is the name of the game. They use black boys and girls as scapegoats for failure to usher in development. Time and time again. Now, you know you're new here, but it's amazing how they bring superintendents here to ruin their careers. I'm against any type of school closure, especially coming out of a pandemic. The numbers that your group, that Sizemore group brought in here, totally inaccurate. All of the white schools are full capacity. All of the black schools, low capacity. But yet, that's where the development is happening. If you're looking at statistics in ARC, they're talking about growth. So I would say reevaluate, get involved, because your blood is on your hands if Thomasville closed, and you're going to hear from the community. Thank you.